Hey there, vinyl community people. It's Mike MGK Boston back with another video. Today, just wanted to talk about a record show I went to last Saturday called the Vinyl Bowl. Not to be confused with the Super Bowl. This is like a opening act for the Super Bowl, if you will. So clearly, the organizers decided Super Bowl Sunday was not the way to go, so they had the show on Saturday, and it was down a little town south of me called Dedham, Massachusetts. And yeah, it was, I'd been to a show there about a year ago, but it was at a VFW. This one was actually at a Holiday Inn, in a ballroom. There were a lot of sellers. Anyway, I was fortunate enough to actually meet this guy. It's the Cheap and Cheerful record collector. It's Jonathan himself, right there. We did a meetup. It was great. Forgive my technical or lack of technical abilities. I don't know how to do all that. Put the photo in the video and background, and my professional life doesn't dictate that I know those things, so neither does my personal life. And at this stage in life, rather, I'm probably not going to learn those technical things. But here I wanted to show this photo of myself and Jonathan. Great guy. We had a great chat, and he just made a video too of some stuff that he picked up at the show. And good to see him back in good health, because he had unfortunately had a mishap playing pickleball. You're never too old for pickleball. And he broke both of his hands, or wrists, I believe. But he was fully on the mend when we met, and that was great. So I just wanted to include that. So that was the record show that we were at, and I'm just going to show a bunch of stuff that I picked up at that show. It was a little jazz heavy on this show for me. A lot of rock wasn't jumping out at me, or any other genre for that matter. So this video is going to lean a little heavy on the jazz, but that's okay. So little hard bop action here for you. It's John Coltrane. Name of this record, Bahia. Release date on this one's 58. This is solid hard bop. No denying it. The title track is excellent, Bahia. And Something I Dreamed Last Night, another good track you could look up on this one. And let's see on the inside. I believe this was on the, he was on the Prestige label. Right there, you can see. So anyway, that's John Coltrane. Bahia, how I'm saying it. Release date on that one, 1958. Lou Donaldson. Easy swinging title cut. It's a classic. Blues Walk, if you don't know it, look it up. It's late 60s soul jazz, if you will. Play Ray and Calling All Cats are other good ones on this one. And this is a quintet, of course, featuring Lou Donaldson on alto sax. And right there on the Blue Note label, there's Lou out for a walk right there. He's out for a blues walk. That's what the name of this album says. A nice promo for the Blue Note stuff. There on the Blue Note label. So yeah, I met this one seller. I was fortunate enough to haggle with him a bit. And I bought 4 or 5 records from the one guy, and I didn't do too badly. And these were all reissues, I believe, early 80s. But all in top excellent condition. So from the same seller, I got this one as well. It's a blues album, of course, with Muddy Waters. But when I got it home, I realized he doesn't play. He plays a bit on it, but it's mostly just featuring his band. And of note, the biggest name on this would be Otis Spann on piano. But yeah, it's pretty good. Again, I got a great price on this one. Recorded in 1967. Just the best example of Chicago blues there is. Or, maybe one of the best. Certainly Muddy Waters on guitar here. So, yeah, Mud in Your Ear, the title track's a good one. You could look that up. And Excuse Me, Babe is another one. All short numbers on this one, nothing over 3 minutes. And it's Mud in Your Ear, Muddy Waters. The great Stan Getz, Captain Marvel. So this one is release date on this one, I believe, was 1972. Arguably Stan's best output right here at the beginning of the 70s for the entire decade. This is a fabulous album. I can't give this enough praise. I'd heard a couple of tracks from this before, but never heard the whole album in its entirety, and here it is. Just really great. So the lineup on this one, of course, he had Stanley Clarke on bass, Chick Corea on electric piano and keyboards, and a guy named Airto Moreira on percussion. Amazing drummer, this guy. Again, I'll say that name, Airto Moreira. I'd never heard of him before. And these guys, except for Stanley Clarke, they'd all been playing with Miles Davis, early 70s, late 60s, his electric sound. So they brought a lot of that to the table here. But Stan running the band here, he keeps them in check, and they never go off into any free jazz or fusion on this. Although it is experimental for Stan Getz, I'd say. La Fiesta, if you want the best example of why this album is so great, that track starts it off. Look it up again. It's La Fiesta, and there's a young Stan Getz on the cover. Of course, they've superimposed. There was no Captain Marvel when he was a child, I don't think. And then there he is as an adult right there on the back. So yeah, it's just really great. Again, you got to go listen to it yourself if you want to see how great it is. And yeah, he was on Columbia at the time. So I would argue, I'm not a big superhero guy, a fan of superheroes or comics, but I would call Stan Getz the Captain Marvel of jazz, right? Superhero in the jazz world. Amazing player. All right. I did get some rock and some Canadian rock. The other power trio, everybody talks about Rush. You don't hear a lot about Triumph. Of course, Mike Levine on bass, Gilmour on drums, and Rick Emmett on lead guitar. Three guys make a lot of noise. This was the follow-up to their album Allied Forces. I think since I'm in the T's here, yes. It's a follow-up to this record here. Just grab that off the CD rack. This is their best. This is their peak. This one right here. Magic Power was a huge single on this one. Fight the Good Fight. Fool for Your Love. And of course, Magic Power, like I said, great on Allied Forces. But I'm talking about Never Surrender today. And the release date on this one was 1982. Yeah, so again, it's not as strong as Allied Forces, but it does have some really great moments on this. World of Fantasy, the title track, Never Surrender, is excellent. Too Much Thinking kicks it off. It's great. The best song on this album is When the Lights Go Down, and I'm going to explain in a second why I think that song's so great. Let's see what's on the inside here. Yeah, it's a bunch of cool shots of the band right here. You can see there they are right there together. So interesting tidbit here. Drummer Gilmour down right there. Drummers that sing. It's an interesting phenomenon. I may make a video on that because Gilmour does sing. He sang more on this album than the stuff that came after. After this album, my interest petered out on Triumph. Never did get to see them live. A good friend of mine out in Vancouver, BC, doesn't do videos on YouTube, but he's just a personal friend of mine, Renee. He said when he was young, it was one of the best shows he'd ever seen, just because of the light show, I guess, was really incredible. But anyway, I wanted a side note on this. And where did I set it? Here it is right here. What am I saying? So touring this album, they played the US Festival the following summer, long weekend in May, Memorial Day weekend. I think the guy's name was Steve Wozniak. He was one of the founding guys of Apple, had tons of money. And he put this whole festival together. And it was I believe it was 3 days. There was a heavy metal day, which Triumph were on. I would not call Triumph a heavy metal band. I'd call them a hard rock band, but I certainly wouldn't call them a heavy metal band. And there was a new wave day, and then I believe there was a country day on day 3, which was Sunday. I mean, I would have gone, went, whatever, to this show back then. I did live in Southern California for a while. In the mid-2000s, we lived out in Southern California. And where this show happened in San Bernardino, that's like Inland Empire. It's on a cool day, it's 95 degrees. So it would have been very uncomfortable. And when you watch the video, people are partying hard. But I mean, I think there was a couple of deaths at this just because of heat and amongst other things, probably some drugs or whatever people got into that day. But yeah, so this is Triumph live at the US Festival. I bought this it's just such a powerful set. And it's got they're all here, Lay It on the Line, Never Surrender, of course, from this album, and When the Lights Go Down. So I mentioned earlier, I wanted to mention that they do a version of When the Lights Go Down on this DVD, or just look it up on YouTube. If you look up Triumph US Festival, When the Lights Go Down, there's a video for it, and it's called from this DVD, this live set. And so it opens with Rick Emmett. He's just a great guitar player. He's playing a pedal steel for like a 50 to 60 second intro, and then he's just picks up his axe and he's flying back and forth across the stage. Super high energy guy. And Gilmour, actually, the drummer, sings that song. So a friend of mine, Ben Rankin's over in Melbourne. He's a drummer. I wonder if Ben can sing. Drummers that sing. Let us know on that in the comments, Ben. And on a final note, there's myself and Mike Levine, the bass player for Triumph. Right after university, I worked in Toronto for a short time in the early 90s, and this was at an event, and Mike Levine was there, and I got my photo with him. So that suit kind of screams 1993, doesn't it? And that's the year that this photo was taken. But yeah, there's Mike Levine. He's still, all three guys are still around in the Toronto area. And interestingly enough, Rick Emmett went into jazz, and I believe he's an instructor at a college in Toronto, teaching jazz guitar. So little side trivia there. But yeah, there's me and Mike Levine, much younger me, 30 years ago. You believe it? All right. Where are we at here? Yeah. Like I do, moving all around the genres. It's Tammy Wynette, and It's Just a Matter of Time. That's the title of this one. And that's a great song. That's, of course, the title track on this. I love these little blurbs on the back. The label would write these little blurbs. There's never been a time when country music has enjoyed such fantastically wide and general acceptance, as if people had to accept it as a musical genre, as it is some kind of bizarre lifestyle. This, of course, she was on Epic. Other highlights on this one: All Night Long, You Keep Slipping My Mind, excuse me, and Run Angel Run. That's a good one too. There's Tam Tam on the back right there. Not with that hairstyle, right? Put your head in a mold and see what happens, right? I'm always talking about hair because I don't have any. There you go. So there, yeah, this was just Harmony on the Harmony label. That was just a division of Columbia. So it's Tammy Wynette. It's Just a Matter of Time. Oh, funny note, back to Stan Getz. I'm just flipping around here with the trivia. So I was reading about Stan Getz anyway, and I thought, wow, why don't they make a biopic of him? I mean, I saw that recent film about Elvis Presley. It was mediocre at best. I'm a big movie buff, holding things to the higher standard like a Roger Ebert would, the late great film critic, that is. But I thought this guy's life would make such a good movie. Just the Wikipedia entry on Stan Getz, it's laugh out loud at points. He was a bit of a train wreck, drug addict, alcoholic, in and out of rehab. That's nothing to laugh about, but and he was apparently very, very difficult to work with. So one of his collaborators, and I forget the guy's name, they asked him in an interview, what's it like working with Stan Getz? And the guy says, he's a bunch of nice guys. Just depending on what he was on that day, I guess, right? I just thought that was hilarious. I wanted to inject that. Reggae now, Third World debut, their self-titled debut. This came out in 1976 and features a brilliant cover of Burning Spear's Slavery Days. I'm also a big fan of Burning Spear. So I got this for a really good price. I mean, as you can see here, $6. And it's in perfect condition. There's the guys on the back right there. And the cover art, I just love this. This would make I think it must have been a painting of some sort, but yeah, it's a beautiful piece of art. Other than Slavery Days on here, cross-reference is good. Sun Won't Shine is an excellent one too. And closing out with Freedom Song, any of those are good. And this was released originally in 1976, the release date on this one. And what label were these guys on? Yeah, of course they were on Island. There's the Island logo right there. Island had so many reggae acts at the time. Still do. All right. Third World. Self-titled. Little psychedelic blues rock. I had heard only one track on this, and that is the cover they did is Stepping Stone on here, which is really good. Of course, this is Steve Miller, his debut, Steve Miller Band. There's a very young Steve Miller right down there. So this release date on this one's 1968. A lot of great things coming into the world that year, including myself. This is just such a good psychedelic album, psychedelic blues. There's no breaks between the tracks. It just goes track into track into track. I don't know if it was meant to be a concept album, but yeah, just some of the standouts on here. Other than that cover of Stepping Stone, You've Got the Power, Children of the Future, the title track is really great, and Push Me to It. The whole thing is really excellent. The jacket's got some wear. Unfortunately, you can see it's a little warpy, but the record's not warped. Just must have been the way it was stored. But the record itself, I had to replace the inner sleeve. It's on the Orange Capital label, but the record's in pristine condition. I got that for $3. Pays to dig sometimes, folks, I'll tell you. And I took a chance on this, thought, oh, it looks a little banged up. I got it home, ran it through my record cleaner, plays terrific. Really great find. I'd say for $3, I consider this my find of the show. Yeah, it's the Steve Miller Band, Children of the Future. Really excellent album. It was a good day. I didn't come out with a large quantity, but the quality was there in the picks that I got last Saturday, so I'll say that. A little more reggae for you here. It's a live Jimmy Cliff. It's called The Best. It's in concert, The Best of Jimmy Cliff, but apparently the story goes with this. He didn't want to put out a best of, so this is just a bunch of tracks that he did one night. I think it's culled from 2 shows, this. I'm not sure where they were recorded, but it's like over 2 nights. And it plays like a greatest hits album, but they're all live. And there he is. Yeah, there he's on the cover on the back is the same as on the front. But yeah, he was coming off the success of the film score, The Harder They Come. And of course, there's the Reprise logo. He was on that label, obviously. But yeah, you know all these songs if you know Jimmy Cliff. Struggling Man, Vietnam's a good one. You Can Get It If You Really Want. Of course, The Harder They Come. And yeah, Sitting in Limbo is another one on here that's really good. Look up the version of Sitting in Limbo by the Jerry Garcia Band. That's a really excellent version, and they jam out with that big time. But yeah, I've got a few Jimmy Cliff now. I think I'm good. Jimmy Cliff stuff sometimes is a little popish reggae, you know, not like UB40, but it veers in that direction. Not that I don't love UB40, but it's certainly not like that Third World album I just showed. It's definitely more, he's more of a crowd pleaser, but he's in concert. This would have been a good show. It's Jimmy Cliff. All right, and we're at the end. Some blues again. This is Johnny Otis with his son Shuggy Otis, and it's a whole review, as you can see here. So Johnny Otis used to do review, like REVUE, when I say reviews, big shows, kind of like James Brown, and he was a disc jockey somewhere in the US. I don't know where, it doesn't really matter, but this is just a traditional blues album. It's on the Alligator label. Let's see here. Yeah, and he was a piano player. There's Johnny Otis right there. Yeah, it's a caricature of him, of course. On the back, there he is, and there's his son Shuggy, who's a guitarist, lead guitar on this. Let's see inside. You can see there on the Alligator label. So a couple of really, really excellent backup singers, female backup singers on this. 2 women, Linda Dorsey and Avira Hamilton. 2 tracks to look up with them. There's a track called Janella and Jack. Look that one up. That features Linda Dorsey singing back and forth with Johnny Otis. And the other track with the other gal is called Why Don't You Do Right? No, Why Don't You Do Right? And then there's another one called Big Time Scoop, and that's featuring Vera Hamilton, and it's like a duet back and forth with Johnny Otis. Yeah, Big Time Scoop is probably the best track on this album. Really good. And just as a side note, I have it handy here. I'm in my blues bin. Oh, lucky me. Good thing I keep things organized. Wouldn't be able to do these spur of the moment things. There's a very young Shuggy Otis right there with Al Kooper. In fact, he was only 15 years old when this was recorded. This was just called Cooper Session. It's around the time he did the Bloomfield Cooper Stills Super Session, and this is a blues album too. And he picked a young Shuggy Otis. He obviously knew Johnny Otis, Al Kooper did, and said, hey, I'd like your son to play on this album, and he did. And it's called Cooper Session, and it's right there. Al Kooper introduces Shuggy Otis. And again, there's Shuggy on this with his dad. I just thought that was an interesting side note to show that. And this is going to round out my Dedham Winter Record Show finds from the Vinyl Bowl, right? So I won the Vinyl Bowl, I'd say. It was a good game. So shout out again. If you don't know the Cheap and Cheerful Record Collector, please go and check out his channel. I was lucky enough to meet him in person, like I said, and we'll hopefully meet. There's another show at the same venue in April, so maybe we'll meet again down there again. So anyway, folks, whatever you're doing, have a good weekend. It's a long weekend here in the States. We've got President's Day on Monday. So hopefully the weather changes. It's very gloomy, but it's also very warm, so it's been great for running. So anyway, I'll see you guys next time.